Hello and welcome back to another Mahner Farms video. Today we're going to be testing out the drone that I just recently purchased. I'm looking forward to using this in a lot of future videos, but I figured for today, since I want to figure out kind of how it works, we're going to be scouting some crops. So we've got a lot of corn here on the farm, so we're going to go around and take a look at some of these cornfields. This first field we're going to be looking at is what we call the round hill. As you can see, there's a couple bare spots in it, and especially down in the low wet spots, but other than that, the corn actually does not look too bad. Then as we cross this little waterway here, we'll be going into what we call the long strip. It's called that because it's a long flat strip. Here the corn looks pretty good, but of course this is one of the better fields. Not a lot of low spots or spots that get too wet during the spring. There are some big rocks in this section, but what are you going to do? And then the top section of this area we call the flat patch. It's a large flat area, which, again, the naming conventions aren't very unique. But once again, this is a pretty good area. The corn looks very, very solid, pretty much all the way up until the tree line. Next, we're approaching a field called the garden field. It's pretty much a perfect rectangular field. This one struggled early season because this corn was actually no-tilled in, but it's bounced back relatively well. It still doesn't look as good as any of the other fields, but it has come a long way from where it was early season. As we cross the road here, we're going into Bottom Schneider's, which is one of the largest fields on the farm, and it is also one that is doing very well. There's a large waterway in the middle that has been getting wider due to mismanagement from a lot of the people renting these fields over the years. But overall, I'd say it is going to yield very well. The corn looks fantastic, and it is very consistent pretty much throughout the entire field. As we finish off taking a look at Schneider's, we'll be going over the remnants of our south pasture, which actually isn't pastured right now, and across the road to what we usually just call Grandma's field. This one, it was named that because it was over by where my grandma lived. This one is some of our nice high ground. It is, for the most part, pretty good. There's a couple bare patches where I'm guessing the planter either missed the rows or the weeds just took over too early. But as you can see, it's a long, narrow field for most of it that stretches behind several residential houses. Overall, this corn is, again, looking pretty dang solid. We have another cornfield, 120, it's further away from the farm. The corn on that one is also looking pretty solid, but I'm not going to fly all the way over there. For one thing, I don't think my drone could get that far. And for another, what's really the point? I'd say that one's easily our worst field for growing corn in it anyway. And as we get to the end of Grandma's field, we're going into a section where I plan to actually put in about a 10-acre sheep pasture. I've never done sheep before on the farm, but with the beef markets the way they are, and with, of course, having a surplus of fairly lush pasture land, I think it might be a good idea. So I'm planning on getting a fence put in over this area we're flying over now in, like I said, about a 10-acre chunk that will take up a little bit of the bottom of that field and all of this area that we used to pasture for cows. But now we'll just be returning back to the farmyard. And so that pretty much does it for scouting the crop. So like I said, a lot of corn on the farm this year, no soybeans this year, at least not over here. There are some over by where I live. But now I figured I'd just fly around the farmyard a little bit, show some angles that I've never shown before on the channel. So here we're up above the silos. These are 60-foot silos. That gives you a fairly solid view around the entire farm. And down here we can go through the machine shed. I'll give her a test of how we can fly through obstacles inside a building. And a lot of people have asked for a machinery tour. I don't really plan to do a machinery tour here, but I could show you the machinery that's currently sitting inside there. We've got, most of this stuff is pretty old and wore out. We've got some John Deere grain drills up front. We've got 2 Matthew Company choppers, 2 Oliver built silo blowers. We've got a Deutz-Fahr side rake, a Deutz Alice 3-point disc bind, a Deutz-Fahr HD 460 square baler, Deutz Alice pull behind disc bind, 2 John Deere corn choppers. I believe we have a 30 and a 36-inch row, a John Deere 45 combine, which I would love to sell, and 3 little chopper boxes. I believe 2 Myers and a Knight box. This part is fun because for some reason, even though I'm right near the end, the obstacle avoidance on my drone will not let me push through because it's detecting too many obstacles or the light change is too dramatic. So I actually have to turn around and fly back out of the shed, which I thought was really funny. And here it's time to test something that was one of the reasons I wanted this drone, which is the auto follow feature. So I can actually just choose a target and I can set the drone to just follow that target. So here I had it chasing after my wife, and of course one of my daughters decided to also chase after her. But it does a pretty good job. Again, it has the obstacle avoidance, so when you set it to do this, it's designed to, keep an eye on itself so it doesn't just run into anything. And it should automatically adjust height to get over obstacles. That being said, it seems to be a good idea to set it at about the height and distance you want it at when you start it, because it tries to maintain that distance. So here it has to stop and go over a tree, well, a little shrub, I should say. Then it goes through here, it avoids the power line by going under it, I believe, yes. And then it follows her down again. But there is an interesting thing where it gets down to the end here and she ends up running underneath the drone, and the gimbal tries to track her, but she's too fast. And as soon as it's out of your sight, the drone will just stop and hover in place because, the target has been lost at that point. So you can see it happening right here. It tries to turn around, but it's too slow and she's gone. So it's no longer in frame and it stops to track. But that is it for today. I had a lot of fun with the drone. Hope you enjoyed this video. It was a good time to take a look at that corn, but that's all for today. We'll see you next time.